There's a known truth in the Black community. Being perfect isn't enough to avoid getting killed. Once a member of the Black community is killed, the person's imperfections surface and the reality of who that person was becomes distorted. As an active member of the innovation community, I am fascinated by finding ways to use technology to produce analog experiential art and momentarily create a gap between what is expected and what is real. And we need to dwell in that gap. With Imperfect Pixels, I am asking us all to slow down and remember those the Black community has lost, often at the hands of police brutality. Once they are lost, they no longer have a future. The Black community is losing its future leaders, doctors, politicians, fathers, friends, advocates, and teachers. In an effort to focus attention, deepen connections, and build capacity, Imperfect Pixels has been designed as an interactive art exhibition, an educational series, and a way to raise funds for local organizations working to address racial equity and social justice. This work consists of 11 images that only become clear to the viewer when they stop and interact with it. These are portraits of lost potential, and you are asked to take time and really look at them. There is no perfect person, and this series does not pretend there is. But there is a difference between a flawed person and a broken system. Personal flaws should not be a death sentence. Perfect performance when interacting with the police should not be required just to reduce the probability of death. The media, as it plasters images of lost brothers and sisters across its channels, should not be allowed to distort the truth about the victims. Someone who was once a student, a son, a mother, a minister, an activist, a friend, a jogger, suddenly becomes recategorized as a thug or a threat. Their life becomes an inverted version of their often short-lived reality. I have spent my career as a community designer. In various professional and personal roles, I have focused on creating environments that stimulate thinking, engagement, and capacity building. While this is often manifested in the creation of physical spaces, I use art to accomplish similar goals. Imperfect Pixels is meant to drive conversation because conversation drives understanding, and understanding can drive change. The goal is to look at art as it intersects with other disciplines and sectors. To deepen connections, I facilitate 3 art and sessions with local experts over the course of the exhibition. Today's social challenges are not going to be solved with yesterday's interventions. Just as an artist asks us to view with a new set of eyes, activists push us to consider new perspectives, recognizing the problems with the status quo, and work to create a new reality. Given that Imperfect Pixels challenges perceptions, it makes sense to look at leadership through different lenses. Civic leadership requires balancing a vision for what's possible with the limitations of what's probable. Somewhere in the middle is effective leadership, an ability to influence others toward a common goal. It's difficult to shift between the art of business and the business of art, but when that balance exists, the economy grows, as can personal wealth. Now, due to several factors, the Black community has struggled to create generational wealth, and that gap continues to grow. Art and justice, art and policy, art and economy. Those are 3 examples, but what would be most meaningful in your community? What areas can be positively impacted with a focus on greater intersectionality? What conversations should be held together versus separately? The last critical element of the Imperfect Pixels exhibit is rooted in the idea that capacity builds capacity. I have always found that my success, personally or professionally, has had a lot to do with the ways in which I could use other people's investment in me to increase my investment in others. So as part of each Imperfect Pixels exhibition, I will create a city-specific piece that will be donated to a local organization. Additionally, when a piece is sold, 25% will be directed to local organizations doing work to advance racial equity and social justice. Which organizations in your community are dedicated to racial equity and social justice? Are folks working toward equitable health outcomes, or equitable education, or equitable access to capital? Each city is addressing this in ways that are unique to that community's challenges. In St. Louis, one organization focused on equitable policy, working to ensure local government is creating policies that are rooted in racial equity. Another, equitable justice, working on criminal justice reform. And the third, equitable economy, working to support entrepreneurs of color. On average, each piece of the Imperfect Pixels exhibit consists of 768 individual pixels. The largest piece takes between 12 and 15 hours from start to finish. During that time, I feel privileged to spend time with each image. I get to think about them at the pixel level, such a small piece of what their lives consisted of. Focus attention, deepen connections, build capacity. I have a passion for examining people's relationship to the world and the world's relationship to people. We also need to examine our relationship to conflict, justice, and equity. To view some of the work or to learn more about bringing the Imperfect Pixels exhibit to your community, visit imperfectpixels.art.